Hello students, welcome back to the next session of the chapter, life processes. So in the last session we had discussed about the double circulation. I said you will be asked to write the schematic diagram of double circulation. So the schematic diagram is you have to represent the double circulation by using boxes or arrow marks and all. So here I have shown one example how you can give a schematic representation of double circulation. So here you can see, you can easily identify the two types of circulation, that is systemic circulation and pulmonary circulation. So you know, pulmonary circulation is a circulation of blood from heart to the lungs back to the heart. So which is the pulmonary circulation, you can see here, this one. So here you can see this is the pulmonary circulation. So wherein the blood is being circulated from heart, deoxygenated blood from heart. So from where it is going? From the right ventricle, it has been passed through the pulmonary artery and it will be reaching the lungs for purification. In the lungs the blood has been purified and through the pulmonary vein the oxygenated blood is entering into the right atrium. So this is one circulation. So I can show the same in the by using the heart diagram. So here you have the left ventricle. From here the blood, deoxygenated blood from the heart is entering into the pulmonary artery. It will reach the lungs and from the lungs through the pulmonary vein it is reaching back to the heart. So that forms the pulmonary circulation. The other one you have systemic circulation wherein the blood is moving from heart to the body parts back to the heart. So here from the heart, that is from right ventricle, the oxygenated blood is moving to the body parts. It has been supplied to body parts through the aorta, main artery or aorta. Oxygenated blood is entering into the body parts and in body part it has been used up. After using, that is for respiration process, carbon dioxide will be given out and oxygen will be completely removed from the blood. So once the oxygen is removed, it's been given to the cells of the body part, it become deoxygenated blood. So now the deoxygenated blood will be again going back to the heart for purification purpose. So it will be entering into the right atrium through the vena cavas, right superior and inferior vena cavas. So this is the systemic circulation wherein blood is reaching from heart to body parts back to the heart. Pulmonary is from heart to lungs back to the heart. Systemic is from heart to body parts back to the heart. So if I show the same in the diagram here, so blood from the left ventricle. Here you have oxygenated blood. So from the pulmonary vein the oxygenated blood is reaching the heart, that is entering into left ventricle. So here from this heart the blood has been pushed by contraction into the aorta and from the aorta it is reaching to the all the body parts by the branches of the aorta called as arteries. It will be reaching to all the body parts and from the body parts again it will be coming back to the, that's from the body parts after giving out the oxygen from the blood it become deoxygenated. So that has to be oxygenated again. For that purpose from the body part it will be coming back to the heart by the help of the superior and inferior vena cava. The veins, it will be entering back to the heart for purification purpose. That's from heart to body parts back to the heart, forms the systemic circulation. So this is the schematic diagram you have to show in order to show the two types of circulation. That is, one is the pulmonary circulation, the other one is the systemic circulation. So you have one more diagram given in your reader. So this is the picture of the diagram which is given in your reader. Schematic diagram is being given in your reader. So you can draw this diagram or you can draw the diagram which I have given on the board. So any of the diagram you can draw for schematic representation of double circulation. Or else even they may ask you to, they may give you the diagram, that one or this one. Usually they give that diagram itself. So they may give that diagram and they may ask you to label the parts, or they may ask you to label the veins or anything which is being labeled here will be asked to label for 1 marks, 2 marks, 3 marks if it is for multiple choice type questions. So you have to be thorough with this schematic diagram also. So now let us see what is heartbeat. So heart beating means, you have heard about heart beating, right? How many times your heart is beating? You have measured in your primary classes. So your heart will beat for 72 times per minute, right? So if you check your pulse, you might have been checked your pulse. So here even if we check the pulse, you will get the same measure as the heartbeat. It will be about 70 to 72 times per minute. So our normal heart will beat to about 70 to 72 times per minute. So what is heart beating? What do you mean by heart beating? So heart beating means it is a contraction and relaxation of the heart. So heart will contract and relax. So during contraction, the heart is pumping out the blood into the blood vessels. During relaxation, the blood has been filled into the heart. That's called as contraction and relaxation. That makes one heartbeat. So one heartbeat has been by counting one contraction and one relaxation together, it makes up one heartbeat. So when heart is contracting, what happens? The blood has been pushed from the blood to the blood vessels. So when the blood has been pushed through the blood vessel, it is entering into the arteries. Which are the arteries the blood is entering? One is pulmonary artery, which carries the blood from right ventricle to the lungs for purification. The other one is, it is entering into the aorta, main artery aorta from the left ventricle, wherein the blood is pushed into aorta to different body parts. So both the arteries, both the arteries, blood is pushed with a greater pressure when during the contraction. And during relaxation, what is happening? Heart is getting filled with the blood from different body part as well as from the lungs. So from different body parts, the impure blood is being brought to the heart by veins, vena cava, that is superior and inferior vena cava, and from the lungs it is being carried by which vein? Pulmonary veins is carrying the purified blood from the lungs to the left atrium. So purified impure blood into the right atrium by the veins called as vena cavas, and the pure blood is being entering into the left atrium by pulmonary veins from the lungs. So what you can understand, when the heart is relaxing, heart is getting filled with the blood, and heart is contracting, heart is pushing out the blood from the blood from the heart chambers. So here I said you the arteries is supplying blood to different parts of the body. The one thing I have left out in that, every part of the body require blood. Not only the other cells of our body, even our heart muscle also require the blood, right? So even the heart has to get enough amount of oxygen and food if it has to work continuously. Definitely our heart has to get blood. So even if the other part of the body has not got the blood, also no problem. But our heart has to get continuously blood and food, because it is the only part which is continuously working, right, without taking any rest. 24 hours it will be continuously beating for us, right? So heart also has to get blood. So which is that artery which is carrying the blood to the heart? It is called as coronary artery. It's not there in your reader, it's for your extra information. So keep it in mind, it is coronary artery which is actually supplying the blood to the heart. So actually heart attack and all is being caused by this coronary artery. If there is any blockage in the coronary artery also, it leads to heart attack. So wherein the blood supply to the heart itself has been stopped. So how many times our heart is beating? It is 70 to 72 times our heart is beating. So what is the instrument we use to measure the heartbeat? So doctors use instrument called as stethoscope to measure our heartbeat, right? The heartbeat is measured by a stethoscope. So they keep something into their ear, and so they place the chest piece on the chest region, and so that they can measure they can feel that, they can hear the heart beating sound by which they count the number of heartbeats. Another method how they measure the heartbeat is by holding your wrist, right? So the wrist region, they take the pulse rate. So what is the difference between the heartbeat and pulse rate? So the heart is pumping out the blood into the artery. So through the arteries, the blood has been reaching to different parts of the body. So usually arteries are placed under the skin. So it is not placed superficially, it will be placed deeply under the skin, because blood pressure will be very much high. So if it is placed superficially, there is a chance of the blood rupturing. The blood pressure will not be balanced, and what will happen, the blood vessels may rupture. But only in some regions you can find arteries are little bit placed superficially. That is, one is near your wrist, the other one you can find near your temples here, the other one you can find near your neck here. So if you hold any of this part, you can feel that heartbeat, or you can call it actually as pulse rate. So what is a pulse rate means? It's a wavy kind of motion which has been created by blood pushing with the pressure through the arteries. When the blood flows through the arteries, it will push the blood vessels, that is artery. Because of the pressure, the blood is flowing. So that wavy kind of motion created inside the arteries, where as the blood flows through the artery is called as pulse. So you can feel the pulse here. Just keep your fingers in your wrist region. You can feel two bones here. If you keep your fingers just above that bones, you can, if you hold it little tightly, you can very nicely feel that pulse rate. You can feel the pulse. And if you can take the count of the how many times the pulse rate, and you can take the count of that by looking at the time, how many times it is showing a wavy kind of motion in 1 minute. If you count, you will get about 70 to 72 times will be the pulse rate. And same thing you can do even by holding your temples here or near the neck region here. If you hold it little tightly, you can feel that pulse. So you can say the heartbeat and pulse rate is one and the same. How many times your heart is beating, so many times you can feel the wavy kind of motion in the arteries. So when the heart is contracting, I said the blood has been pushed with a greater pressure. So sometimes this pressure may increase. It will be different in different cases. So even in children, the number of times the heart is beating is much faster because they are always active. They need much energy, right? So their heartbeat, if you measure, it will not be 70 to 72 times. It will be little more than that. So even as you grow older, also the heartbeat may increase or it may decrease. So based on that, we can say it's high pressure, low pressure, hypertension and all. You might have been heard about that, right? So that is based on how the blood pressure varies from person to person. So how do we measure that blood pressure? So what is the blood pressure? You understood, I hope. So blood pressure means is the pressure by which the blood is flowing through a blood vessel. It's called as blood pressure, especially the blood flowing through arteries, right? The blood is flowing with a high pressure through what? Through the arteries. Through veins, the blood is not flowing with any pressure. So when the blood is flowing through the arteries, the pressure created within that is called as a blood pressure. So based on the heartbeat, there is contraction and relaxation. The pressure also varies. When the heart is contracting, pressure is much more. When the heart is relaxing, pressure is less. So based on that, we can classify this blood pressure into two parts. One is systolic pressure, diastolic pressure. So systolic means it's a duration when the heart is contracting, and diastolic means it's duration when the heart is relaxing. So you have to take the pressure of both systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. That is when heart is contracting and when the heart is relaxing. So when will be the pressure much? It's obviously that when the heart is contracting, the pressure will be much more. When the heart is relaxing, the pressure will be less. So based on that, we can measure the blood pressure. We write the blood pressure in two parts, which will say that we write usually the blood pressure of a normal person, we write it as 120 by 80 mmHg, we write. So this is a normal blood pressure of a healthy person, we write. So here you can see two parts. So here you can see 120 and you can see 80. So 120 will be the highest pressure. So it has been caused during systolic, that's contraction of the heart muscles, and 80 is the lowest pressure which is caused during the diastole, that is when the heart is relaxing. So we had to measure both systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So what is the instrument you use to measure the blood pressure? So olden days, even now in some of the clinics you can find an instrument called as sphygmomanometer. It's called as sphygmomanometer. So this is the instrument which is used by the doctors to measure the blood pressure, sphygmomanometer. But nowadays you can find there is digital device used to measure the blood pressure. So but they used to use this instrument in the olden days. Even now you can find sphygmomanometer used to measure the blood pressure. So sphygmomanometer is a box shaped device. If you open that, you can find a tube in which you can find the mercury being filled in that, and you can see the reading on the tube like structure also. So you have to take the reading from that. So based on the pressure created within the cuff which will be rolled around your hands when you measure the blood pressure. So that will be having a cuff which has been used to roll around your arms, and they will be having an air pump also. They pump the air. So as the air has been pumped, so they can measure the blood pressure which has been created in your arteries in the arm region. So that pressure will make some difference in the rise of the level of the mercury within that. So based on that they will take the readings, will be taken out. But nowadays you have just a digital machine. Just roll the cuff around your arms and press a button, automatically it will be filled with air and it will take the measurement of your blood pressure moving in the arteries. That is the diastolic and systolic, both will be taken the measurement there itself. But in olden days there is some difference that will be explaining in the next class, how they actually take the blood pressure measurement by using that sphygmomanometer. So now we understand that. So we have two kind of blood pressure, that is systolic and diastolic. So systolic means is the highest blood pressure, that is 120, and diastolic is the lowest blood pressure, that is 80. So this is 120 mmHg and this is 80 mmHg. So you might have even heard even about high BP, low BP, hypertension, right? Hypotension. So what is this high BP, low BP? So in some cases when the person is in an anxiety condition, so he is having lots of tension and all, what happens is automatically the heart beats faster, right? So when the heart rate is very much fast, what happens? The pressure with which the blood is flowing also will be increasing. So at that time this blood pressure may reach to about from 120 it may reach to about 140, 145 mm per Hg. So that is called as highest blood pressure. That is in the case of hypertension. So when a person is having hypertension, hyper means having more tension. So in that cases the person may have the heartbeat, that is systolic pressure may reach to about 145 mm, 145 mm by Hg, and the diastolic also may increase by about 90. So in case, that is case of hypertension. In case of hypotension, that is in low BP cases. In low BP cases 120 is the normal one, so it may reach to about 110, lower than 120, and even the diastolic pressure from 80 it may reach 75, or it may be 60 or 65 like that. So that may decrease. So even this may reach to about 90. So that is called as low blood pressure case. So high blood pressure means it will be the systolic will be above 120 and diastolic also will be above 80 a little bit. During low BP you can see that the systolic will be less than 120, and even the diastolic also you can find less than 80. So this is about blood pressure. So how actually the blood pressure is taken by using the sphygmomanometer will be doing in the next session. So how actually the blood pressure has been measured in our body by using the sphygmomanometer, I'll be explaining that in the next session. So this will be the end of this session. We'll be winding the session today and we'll be meeting in the next session. Thank you.